Members, welcome back. Our recess has expired and we will now continue with our business. The next application from the South is the Commonwealth of Virginia. The state has applied to hold a pre-window state-run primary. And at this time, I'd like to welcome Chair Bagby to the podium to begin their presentation.
Is Terry going first? Brought all his brothers out, the ones that are forming the
Well, good afternoon, everybody.
It looks like it may be
What
Chair
a great crowd.
McCall.
Let's hear it for the Democratic Party, huh? My name is Terry McAuliffe. And Chris Bowling. And the greatest chair in the history of Virginia, my greatest appointment as governor, Susan Schlecker.
Hey.
I mean, think of that for a minute. I was our 72nd governor. I was born in New York, actually. They had a Yankee as the governor of Virginia. We didn't tell everybody that. But, I mean, when you go to bed tonight, think about this. Our first governor was Patrick Henry's. American Revolution, lit the match, give me liberty, give me death at St. John's Church. Our second governor, Thomas Jefferson. And then Terry McAuliffe. I mean, is this not a great country we live in? But and most important, forget about being the governor. I was chairman of the Democratic National Committee. And I look around the room, and David down there, I appointed you back 21 years ago, and many of you I worked with. Jim, you've been on the committee since, what, 86?
Yep.
God bless you. And first of all, thank you all for your great service. I'm here on behalf of the great Commonwealth of Virginia. We're here pitching to make sure that Virginia has an integral part in this process. This is personal to me. If you all remember who were with me, back when I became chair in 2001, I had my great CEO, Mignon Moore, who was there with me, and my great chief of staff, Leah Daughtry, was there with me. Is Maria Cardone here? She was my communications director. Elaine Kmark, a great Virginian, was there. Listen, it was after the Gore lost the election, or actually got the election stolen by the United States Supreme Court, if you remember back when we took office. And I said, you know, we got to rebuild. And we got to put our party in a much better shape. So we embarked upon a massive campaign at the party. I'm very proud we got our party out of debt for the first time in 36 years.
Can be done.
Since 1968, got us out. When I left office, no debt, $26 million in the bank, through the help of a lot of the people here, built the new headquarters, voter file, first national voter file in party history, helped the state parties, eliminated 27 million incorrect addresses that the state parties had, tried to get our party in great shape so we could compete. But one of the biggest tasks we took on was changing the calendar. For the first time in 30 years, we took a whack at fixing the calendar. We had great states in the early states, but when 90% of the African-American community votes for the Democratic nominee for president and 67% of the Hispanic community, we needed a map that was more diverse. Communities of color had an earlier say in that calendar, and we worked very closely. I'm very proud of the calendar we came up, worked with Carol and the late, great Don Fowler, our great chair of South Carolina, and we moved South Carolina up to the front of the line to recognize the significance and the importance of the African-American community. I worked with Debbie Dingell. We moved Michigan right up to the front, diverse state and very pro-labor state. We moved up New Mexico. We moved up Arizona, and it became a great calendar. Much more diverse calendar for the Democratic Party. Here we now are 25 years later, and we're looking at that again. And that's why we're here today. I think this is a huge opportunity for us as a party to do a calendar that is representative of our country and representative of the Democratic Party. I'm here for Virginia. We are a great state. We are a state of about 8.8 million people. And if you think the history, the trajectory of Virginia, we used to be a red state. In fact, when I ran for governor, there were 66 Republicans in the House of Delegates. Today, there are 64 Democrats in the House of Delegates. Republicans had a majority of the congressional delegation back in 2013. We now have a majority and I think we're going to win 3 more this year, which is an exciting, yep, give that a great round of applause. Make Hakeem Jeffries our speaker. And I think you should also reward states that when they have power, they use power. It's not just talk for us in Virginia. I think in my days as governor, I had a very Republican legislature. I had the most vetoes of any governor in Virginia history. I vetoed every anti-gay bill, every anti-woman bill, every anti-labor bill. And I'm very proud I was never once did they override my veto. I'm the first governor in America to perform a gay marriage after the historic Supreme Court ruling. I leaned in for labor. I vetoed every single anti-woman bill, and NARAL always gave me the BRIC Award of the Year to the politician who stood hardest and strongest for women's rights. I was very proud of that. And then we continued to make progress in our House and our Senate, move forward. My greatest accomplishment, I guess, as governor, we had a record amount of jobs created. Personal income went up 13.6%. We should look to states where we're increasing the income of the workers in that state. I just didn't talk about jobs, 225,000 new jobs. I talked about good, high-paying jobs. And we outpaced the country, which is important for the Democratic Party. We're raising people's wages. I also erased a horrible 1902 Jim Crow, Richmond, of course, capital of the Confederacy. They had a law that if you committed a felony, you never voted again for the rest of your life. Felony threshold in Virginia was $100. So you're a 17-year-old kid, you steal some sneakers, you never vote for the rest of your life. I thought that was wrong. So if you all remember April of 2016, I erased it. I used an executive authority and gave 206,000 people back the right to vote. The largest, it was the largest enfranchisement of voter rights in our country's history. And what did the Republicans do? They sued me, said I didn't have the authority. Now, I'm not going to lie to anybody here. I went to Georgetown Law School. I was a full-time student. I had a scholarship. I'm not going to lie to you. I never went to class. Not that I didn't want to go, it's just I was busy. I was traveling the country, I was working for Tip O'Neill, I was out and about. But I passed, I'm a member of a bar. I even knew with my little Georgetown law degree that that is not a constitutional theory. He can't do it because no governor's done it before. But that's what they said. Then they came back and said, oh, he has to do them individually. Oh, really? So I'm very proud, folks. I signed 206,000 individual petitions to give people back the right to vote. My point in all of this is we need to reward states that fight for the principles of the Democratic Party. They just don't talk about it. They get stuff done. We're rural, we're urban. We got Southwest Virginia, we used to be the coal mines. We have Southside Virginia, which used to be the textile mills. We got everything in Virginia. We're very diverse, and Chris is going to go through the exact numbers. The other thing I want to say about Virginia is we are very pro-military. And we have percentage-wise the most veterans active duty of any state in America. We have the largest naval base in the world in Virginia. Every aircraft carrier in the history of the United States Navy was built where? Boom, Newport News, Virginia. How do you like that? And our shipyard and the steel workers, and who is the first woman in the history to work there? Senator Louise Lucas. How do you like that? I like those apples, I'm telling you. We got it all in Virginia. I know you got great states, but who else can say that? Virginia. That's what we got for you, folks. So I don't get excited too often, but I am jacked up here. This is a huge opportunity for our country to do this. And the final thing I'd say is voting rates. We've led the country on that. Early vote, 45 days early vote. No excuse absentee ballot. Same-day voter registration. We got it all in Virginia, and our great senator is adding a lot more great things in. So we're the most we're the only southern state that truly protects a woman's right to choose of all the southern states. We are the most pro-union of all the southern states, and we still have a long way to go, but we have made great progress in Virginia. Pro-military. So, folks, I thank you for giving me this opportunity. This is a great opportunity for the nominee who can come to Virginia, campaign in rural, urban. When you campaign in Virginia, you're reaching media markets in Kentucky and West Virginia, in Tennessee. You're getting Maryland, you're getting it all. I mean, we are the greatest bang for the buck. Let me now turn it over to the greatest state senator in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia, my great friend, and the chair of the Democratic Party of the Commonwealth of Virginia, my great friend, Lamont Bagby. All yours, buddy. You're up.
He didn't leave much for me. These slides we have, he's went through them already. For 1 minute, I thought you were about to say the greatest party chair.
Well,
But you would never do that with Sweck right there. Good to see you all. As the governor explained, we have flipped a lot in a short period of time in what I think we all agree is a purple state, Virginia. We have, as he mentioned, when I got to the General Assembly in the House of Delegates, and he was the governor, he had 33 members in the House, which for us did not give him an opportunity to sustain his vetoes. And so I was a 34th vote. I came and saved him. And now to see that flipped a decade later to 64 to 36, where now they're trying to make sure that they can push back. But now, we'll get to that part later, we have a trifecta. So the fact that we've been able to flip the House and where I serve in the Senate to 21-19, razor thin, because Virginia, again, is purple. And we oftentimes start moving and thinking about Virginia as a blue state because we've had consecutive wins. But each of these elections have been tight. As you all have, I hope, followed in the news and saw this last constitutional amendment that we moved forward with, and the last slide said we fight and we're not afraid of a fight. That was a fight that we were willing to take on, but we also had to do the work because that was a razor thin victory that we had, and it took all boots on the ground. And I want to thank many of you for making phone calls and knocking doors to help us get that done. Sorry that we also have some work to do on our Supreme Court, but that work will get done as well. We have not only flipped the House and the Senate, we also now have the majority of our congressional delegations, and we also have, and Mike is with us, we also have U.S. Senators Mark Warner and Tim Kaine, and we also have a trifecta, as we'll talk about a little bit in a moment. But as the governor mentioned, we have done a lot related to voting rights. And you all are familiar with the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. We in Virginia saw fit in 2021 to do something of the same sort, to mirror what is to be in the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. What we then saw is, as we looked around the corner, there's going to be some challenges, possibly, with the feds and the Voting Rights Act. So what we did is detached ourselves from the federal legislation and from the federal regulations, and now we have took those provisions and put those only in our law, so that we're protecting the voting rights of Virginians, and it's not attached to whatever may happen on the federal level. The governor mentioned what we also did with expanding the window for voting. I'm waiting for Chris to. Virginia has elections every year, as you all know. We talk about it all the time, and you all are probably tired of hearing us talk about it. But that's often an opportunity for us to work that muscle. And so it prepares us for elections and primaries and so forth. And so as we look at the election that we had last year and the election before that, and looking at even the election for this year, that is really significantly preparing us for the 2028 election. As you all know, we have a trifecta with the 21 members in the Senate, 64 members in the House out of 100, and the governor's mansion. We have held several presidential primaries in 2020 and 2024 that were standalone, and statewide leaders are prepared to support us, and that's going to be critical as we look to move that date up. And we have the support of not only our governor and our two legislative bodies, but we also have the support of our attorney general, who's going to be critical in making sure that we are not only able to move that up and protect whatever we do, but also it's going to be critical for the attorney general to work alongside the secretary of administration to make sure that we are protecting voters' ability to vote and at the ballot box. And now I'll turn it over to Chris Bowling, our executive director.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Hey, just want to take a couple minutes and talk to you sort of about Virginia as the purple state it is and how it matches our national party, which I think is incredibly important for any state that is looking to be sort of early in our process. So in Virginia, you sort of see on this slide, 56% of the Democratic Party nationally is white, non-Hispanic. In Virginia, it's a little higher at 58.4%. 18% is black, 20% in Virginia, 6% AAPI, again, just a little close to 2% higher in Virginia. Hispanic and Latino, 16% in the national party, a little under 12% in Virginia. And then two or more races in Native American is 4%, which almost is an exact match, right? One of the points that we want to make here that we think is incredibly important is like places that happen to match the party while also being purple states are important. One of the other things you see here, and that's out of 9 million residents, which is pretty significant. 10% of our residents are either veterans or active duty military, largely in the Hampton Roads region, but not solely in the Hampton Roads region. In Virginia is such a wonderful place because it's one of those places where like the voices of black women will be heard in Virginia. You will not get elected without support of black women who have been, will continue to be the backbone of our party. In Virginia, you have to do it in all regions of the Commonwealth as well. It's not like you go to one place and it's like, oh, I can check that box. Like, no, you actually have to go touch multiple regions in Virginia to do so. And then the biggest thing that I think one of the points that we've tried to make here today is like Virginia over a long period of time, it's been 25 years since Governor McAuliffe became chair here. In those 25 years since, you've seen this steady build of momentum of Virginia turning into a thing. We're very excited about having 64 seats in the House of Delegates. Before November of last year, that number was 51, right? We had a really good year last year because we had great candidates up and down the ballot, rural candidates, suburban candidates, urban candidates. We're all over the place. So we've built this momentum in multiple places, and it's the type of thing that we think honestly should be showcased because we think, one, we match the national party, two, we require you to do the types of things as candidates where you actually have to show up and campaign in a way that will get you support, like real support amongst folks, and you sort of sharpen that tool as you go out and become our nominee and go to other states. And then listen, like we're just really proud of this. Like we take on tough fights. So our chair talked about the constitutional amendment that was just on the ballot in April. What is sort of lost in the sauce because it's not as attractive because of what is happening nationally is like we have 3 additional constitutional amendments on the ballot in November with Senator Warner and with our congressional candidates. One to enshrine marriage equality, restoration of rights, and reproductive rights, right? We want to protect all citizens who want to get married regardless of who you want to get married to. As opposed to punishing somebody who stole a pair of sneakers for $100 when they were 17, like we want to enshrine that like you serve your time, you do your bid, you earn your rights back. You have the ability to do so. And then on reproductive rights, like we're proud to be the state in the South that is most forward-looking on reproductive rights for women.
So
like
thank
all
you.
of those are on the ballot this November. Like, these are things that are happening right now. These are the fights that we want to be in, that we want to take advantage of. And like, incredibly proud of that. That is what it is to be in Virginia. And I'm going to give this over to Mike Henry.
And I'm going to say we have run out of presentation time, but we're turning now to questions and answers and discussion from the members, so you'll have a chance to say other things. Who has a question or a point of discussion? Frank?
Frank Leone, actually DC now. One of the criteria we're looking at is the ability of a state party to schedule a primary timely. And I understand you have a Democratic trifecta. You would need legislation changing your primary date from Super Tuesday to whatever date it is. Do you think you would be able to pass that legislation? And what might be the timing of enacting that new legislation?
Yes, given the vote of this body, we will pass that legislation this coming January. And we have the commitment, and I think you all should have letters from Senate Pro Tem Louise Lucas, Speaker Don Scott, and our governor all supporting, and so we will have no issue or no challenge with moving that up through legislation.
Okay, thank you. Steph?
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. Steph Campagnoli in New Jersey. Thank you so much for your presentation. Can you please tell me the average cost of rent for a one-bedroom in Richmond and in Blacksburg?
We're not prepared to answer that question. Now, that's the question that's all over Twitter, right, Chris?
You are all welcome.
Thank you for the question. In Richmond, it is $1,600 for a one-bedroom. In Blacksburg, it's a little over $1,000 to $1,050. You're very welcome.
And Donna?
Jamie.
I'm sorry, excuse me, I got it out of order. Be right back. Jamie?
Thank you, Jamie Selzler, North Dakota. One of the things we're looking at is fairness, and is the ability for all candidates to be able to make a play, and part of that is the cost in media markets. Obviously, the Northern Virginia market's expensive. Your application took an interesting approach, which is, yes, it's the most expensive, and that's why we should pick it, because it will force candidates to raise money and show who's good at raising money. Interesting take. If we have, 714 candidates, whatever we have running for president, it's a lot of money to go around that they have to raise. Walk through for us why you think it's valuable that candidates be forced to raise huge amounts of money for one state's primary.
First of all, thanks for your question. I'm Mike Henry with Tim Kaine's office. He brings his greetings, knows many of you. Look, I think Virginia, Northern Virginia is on the expensive side. Similarly, that's like that in other states. But what I really think we also have that's unique is we have great media markets that are very inexpensive, like Hampton Roads, Richmond, Roanoke. As we all know, digital communication is really a key part of anybody's campaign right now. So I think it's a very economical state, actually, to run a race in, and I have multiple times. When I look at other states that we are compared with, I think we're right up there. Now, as far as, concerns about raising money, I do think when candidates have the ability to raise money, that should also show strength. And, we have a great history in our party that it's not about expensive, people who can give lots of money. It's really about the average $5, $10, $15 contribution. And I think Virginia would just complement an already an amazing calendar that we have right now set up. So, but thanks for your question, and I'm happy to answer anything offline too.
Speaking of someone who's had his name on a ballot a lot, I think the TV is way overrated. It's not how you win elections. It's about grassroots activism. This is coming from someone who's raised a lot of money. But it's literally the people knocking on the doors, making those phone calls. That's how you win in Virginia, and that's one of the reasons why I think we're such a great state. We are activists in Virginia. We have elections every year. We never have a day off. So we're activists, and we're grassroots activists. And that's what's going to make a candidate for president or candidate for governor or whatever be successful. If you don't have the grassroots, I don't care how much money you have on DC TV, it's just not going to matter. And we have seen so many candidates with unlimited money come in third or fourth place. But I would make the argument it's because of who we are in elections every year. We believe in grassroots, and that's what, we're jacked up on elections. We do them every year. We're professionals at this. We engage. We care about the issues. And that's how the nominee is going to win Virginia, is by building the grassroots support. And I would just say this at the top, I should say, I spoke to Governor Spanberger this morning. She wishes she could be here. She conveys her best. Her daughter is graduating from high school right now. So that's otherwise. And let's give it for the first woman elected governor in the history of the Commonwealth of Virginia. I mean, just one more thing you can say for Virginia. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Governor. And now I've got it right, Donna.
Thank you. And while you are applauding the Commonwealth of Virginia, also Virginia was the 38th state to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment. So thank you for that bit of history. I want to say to my friend for so many years, Terry, thank you also for being the chair of the Democratic National Committee that established the Voting Rights Institute in 2001, and for giving us not only the political but legal framework so that the Democratic Party had a very active voter protection operation that still exists today. And Maynard Jackson, of course, the former mayor of Atlanta, was your first chair. I was your second one, and Maria put out the press release just to give you, you might forget. All right. My question centers around some of the things that have happened, not only with regards to the Voting Rights Act, but in 2024, Governor Youngkin tried to scrub the voter rolls. This went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and I know that you all, while you were not able to reverse it, many non-citizens, as well as citizens, was caught up in that scheme to scrub the voter roll. Given the fact that Mr. Trump is trying to take over the state's ability to run their own election, are you currently facing any attempts by the Justice Department to sue your state for your voter registration rolls? Along the same line, the RNC is suing the state of Virginia for allowing voting rights to citizens who are born in the state but live abroad. I want to know the status of that. And finally, and maybe you could speak to this in terms of the legislature, with the SAVE Act stalled in the United States Senate, the Trump administration is pressing states to enact several of its key provisions, including the proof of citizenship. Is any attempt now to do that in the state of Virginia? Those are my three questions.
Well, if you don't mind, I think my response to that would probably be the same for all three of those. And that is, you talked about former Governor Youngkin scrubbing the voter roll and taking us out of ERIC. You didn't say that, I said it. But our governor has entered us back into ERIC, and we have an Attorney General in Jay Jones that is fully prepared to take on any efforts by Trump and the DOJ to come after us for a host of issues. And as you all know, we don't know what those issues might be. But we are fully prepared as a legislature to support the Attorney General, as the governor to support the Attorney General, to make sure that we are fighting back on whatever it is that they come up with. And we know that they will come up with something, and it will just not be Virginia. It will be multiple states that will be under attack. But I feel like we are fully prepared, and our Attorney General is gearing up for the fight to make sure that we protect access to the ballot. And again, the legislation that we have put forward that has passed both bodies and been signed by the governor strengthens our voting rights in Virginia. And I think it is a model for what could be with the U.S., with the federal government in strengthening access to, not only access to the ballot box, but protecting individuals at the ballot box. Our governor just put out an executive order to go a step further. We understand that ICE could be intimidating at the ballot box. And so our executive order, or her executive order, addresses that threat and making sure that individuals feel safe going to the ballot box. And so there's a host of attacks that could be pressed upon us, but I feel confident and I have felt good about how we have approached those challenges with our legislature working alongside our Attorney General and our Governor.
Just say in closing, as Vice Chair under the leadership of Tim Kaine, I also want to let you know, Mike, how proud I am of him and his service as well. So thank you.
And also, one last thing, I'm sorry. The Voting Rights Act also had a fund in it. And that fund is the dollars to help make sure that not only we're doing the right things related to making sure folks' voting rights are protected, but it also helps with funding the education for voters. And so if you go to our Department of Elections website, you will see multiple languages of instructions and helping individuals to make sure that they move throughout the process of voting.
Thank you. Luis.
Thank you, Mr. Co-Chair. This is Luis Davila from Puerto Rico. I think Virginia certainly presents a compelling offer, compelling case of diverse constituency, as Governor mentioned, rural, military. But in recent times, I feel like the political gravity has shifted towards the Northern Virginia corridor. So my question to you would be, how does Virginia ensure that an early primary would reflect that broader political character of the Commonwealth, which I was mentioning earlier, rather than being disproportionately shaped by a nationalized media and the political ecosystem that I feel every day becomes more and more linked to D.C.?
Yeah, I think if you look, as we discussed, we talked about the 20 to 25 year window and how we have become more competitive over time. That competitiveness has not just been Northern Virginia. Northern Virginia is not purple. Northern Virginia is blue, has been blue. Where we found our success is in rural Virginia, and particularly in a locality that I'm from, right outside of Richmond, which is Henrico and Chesterfield. And then we also found success in places like Loudoun and Virginia Beach. That's where we have been able to get our gains. And that's why I think it makes sense for this presidential bid, because those are the places, if I were running for president, that I would go. I wouldn't necessarily focus on Northern Virginia as much as I would focus on testing myself in Black rural, in Loudoun, where it's super diverse, in Virginia Beach, where you have a population in Norfolk, where you have populations that are military, and then you have folks that are really well off. I think you have an opportunity across the Commonwealth of Virginia to test your strengths in different areas into certain populations. And so, does that answer your question?
It kind of does, but that's what I worry, right? Like, you always hear that you have to take the Democratic Party out of D.C. And then I feel like there will be some sort of interpretation that by, focusing or somehow empowering this corridor, which
and again,
I mean, Loudoun is almost an extension of Fairfax, which is, a suburb of D.C. today.
Well, Richmond, so going back, say 20 to 25 years, where I'm from, Henrico, and then there's Chesterfield and Virginia Beach, we were losing those. And so it's not just Northern Virginia that we're continuing to win. The reason why we are winning, and again, it's small margins. When you look at this referendum that we just had, that we won, we lose Henrico and Chesterfield, we lose a referendum. And so our wins and the voters are not just in Northern Virginia, they're across the Commonwealth of Virginia. And if you look at the map, and for some reason I was looking at primaries prior to this, primaries prior to 2024, and the maps are clear. You can see where people are, you can see where, and then you can associate it with your states. And you can say, hey, this rural area resembles this state, or this black community resembles this state. And you can see where folks could really come in a presidential bid to really test themselves.
Thank you.
There's just a quick point on this, because I think this is important. Mike, please correct me if I'm wrong. Bad statewide candidates in Virginia spend all of their time in Northern Virginia. That's what bad candidates do. And in all honesty, they lose. Good candidates spend like a fair amount of time in Northern Virginia. There are a ton of votes there. We should never act like there aren't. But like, if you don't make your way through the rest of the Crescent, or if you don't make your way to Charlottesville, which is outside of the Crescent, or you don't make your way to Roanoke, or even Wise County, like, you're going to be a bad candidate in Virginia, and quite frankly, you're not going to win. Like, you will lose. Like, it's like the thing that concerns you is what bad candidates do, and quite frankly, that's a reason you should put us up there, because we will weed out bad candidates. If you come to Virginia and you say, I only want to spend my time in Fairfax and Arlington, you will lose. And like, any candidate watching this should like take that seriously. You will lose. You should go to Richmond, and you should go to Virginia Beach, and you should go to Norfolk, and you should go to Portsmouth. Quite frankly, at this point in time, if you come to Virginia and you don't go to Portsmouth, like, you're going to lose, because Louise Lucas is not going to be on your side. Like, that's a problem that you don't want. All right.
Thank you. All right, Maria?
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Terry, great to see you. Thank you for being here, my dear friend and former boss. I wanted to ask you, and you kind of mentioned this, and I love the way that Governor Spamberger, who, by the way, speaks perfect Spanish, and she uses it, and I'm very proud of that. She has also been very active in going up against ICE. We know that ICE is going to be, has been, and will continue to be weaponized against Latino and immigrant communities, especially during the election cycle. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about what you all are doing, not just to ensure that the Latino community and the immigrant community knows what the governor has done in terms of legislation to make sure that ICE is not allowed at the voting places, but there has already been a ton of misinformation and lies that have gone out to the Latino communities, and there's already a lot of fear. And so I think there needs to be a focused education campaign to let Latinos know that they can come out to vote, and that they're not going to be taken away by ICE, and that their family is not going to be targeted and taken away by ICE. So can you talk to me a little bit about what you all are doing to ensure that that kind of campaign and that kind of conversation with those communities is happening?
So aside from the legislation, that EO was yesterday.
Okay.
So that's fresh. But that's the whole point of the fund associated with the voting rights. That's that is in concert with the Secretary of Administration. That is under the Department of Elections, which again, the beautiful thing about Virginia now, not back 2 years ago, but the beautiful thing about Virginia now is that our Secretary of Administration falls under the governor, and those things in the Department of Elections fall under the governor. And so all those, as we update and we message into our, not only our Department of Elections website, but as we do our social media and whatever else communication, other communications, but education for voters, that is something that we will incorporate because we want to make sure that folks know all the things that are under the voting rights and the legislation. There's a ton of things that folks don't know that we just did this last session. For example, we talk about interfaith outreach. One of the things that we heard from particularly folks that worship on Sunday is they want, because You got Terry McCullough showing up to your church or your place of worship on Sunday saying, hey, go vote for this candidate. The best thing for them to do is to leave church before they go to brunch or go watch football, go vote. And so in 2020, I had legislation along with Senator Mamie Locke to make Sunday voting a thing in Virginia. That was successful, but it was a May. So we had some localities that took us up on it. Some of them didn't. Guess what? My locality didn't. And so what we did this past session is made that a shall. So now in Virginia, we have 2 Sundays before every election that voting on Sunday must happen. And so those are some of the things that we will have to make sure under this fund that we push out to make sure that individuals know about these options and know about their rights.
Great, thank you.
I give you just one quick point, sort of from staff side. Like, there are a couple benefits to Virginia having elections every year. Crazy good job security for me. I will take every single time. But there's also, like, again, they talked about building this muscle all the time. So, like, our C4 table, our campaigns, our internal caucus, D-Love at the party, some other organizations that may exist, constantly have to do this thing where they actually go talk to communities in person, through digital, in print, on TV. Like, they have to do it all the time. It's not an option. So the ability for us to stand up something that is able to give out communication in the way that you're talking about and the way that the chairman is talking about as well is easy because we literally do this every year, right? Like, just to give you an example, I might be a little off here, but we've had double-digit elections since November. Like, so from Election Day in 2025 until today, we've had double-digit elections in the Commonwealth. We do this all the time. So standing up an organization or communicating with voters in the way that you're talking about or non-voters, quite frankly, because we want to make them voters, is incredibly easy because we do it so often.
Thank you. All right, Indira?
Thank you. Thank you for the excellent presentation. It's wonderful to hear all of these achievements, but the biggest thing for me about Virginia is 2025 and the spectacular successes that you have seen and how you've moved to the further left. Can you tell us how you built your coalitions with various groups like the African American groups, AAPI groups, Latino groups, and how did they contribute to your success? And what can candidates who are competing, or if you were to become a primary state, then early primary state, how can they take advantage of that? And what could they learn from that experience and apply to the rest of their campaigns?
Yeah, you remember a few minutes ago when we were answering the question about Northern Virginia, and I was like, this is what bad candidates do in Virginia. They do none of what you just described. So here's, again, benefit of us having elections every year. So first, on the part, I'm executive director of the party, so I want to talk about the party. I want to brag on my folks a little bit because I find them to be very special. Our caucuses in our party are active caucuses. They are not like, hey, we sort of exist here. So we start with this wonderful base of people who are a part of the party infrastructure itself, right? So we start there, we're able to do those. What we then do is working with them and then additionally working with our C4 table who sort of works parallel to those folks. Sometimes there's crossover, right? We're able to, every single year, build an AAPI 4. It's not the same people every year. The folks who love Tim Kaine, self-included, may not love Abigail Spanberger, right? But there's somebody else who absolutely loves Abigail Spanberger who might not love Tim Kaine, right? So we're able to engage people in every community. Pick one. Every single community, every single year, again, because you don't have the choice not to. So you sort of build this base infrastructure and then doing it every year, you just keep growing. It's the same. It's like literally the same as building a muscle. So when it's like, I want to build an African Americans for a list, I want to talk to this faith-based community, I want to talk to this faith-based community, there's always a place to start. You're never building from scratch in Virginia because we've built so many relationships, again, because we do elections every single year. And competitive elections, to the chairman's point, and especially in some of the places that we're talking about, you build these competitive elections every year, you build this base. So once that base is established, you're just stacking on top of it every year. So you're never starting from scratch. And like that is a massive benefit to what we do here. You also just don't lose communication with the people. We don't just show up in an election year. They're all election years, right? We don't stop talking to, so our election day is in November like everybody else's. And it's like, oh, well, it's December. Okay, we take a break. Maybe everybody gets a break because you go through the holiday season. They go back into General Assembly session in the beginning of January. So the same people who you communicate with, who you've built that rapport with, now want to talk to you about legislation. They want to come on behalf of their organizations to do those things. So you communicate with them through the General Assembly session, which runs through the winter, and then you're back in the spring and it's time to run again. So you never stop building relationships. We work in a relationship business. Everyone builds relationships in Virginia because you don't have a choice not to. You have to, like, again, I cannot stress this enough. Bad candidates will get weeded out in Virginia. Go ahead, you got it.
I just want to point two things out. Chris mentioned, but I wanted to really stick. There's two things that I think we have strong, and that is strong caucuses and strong local committees. Supporting our local committees makes our job easier because when they feel that support, whether that is AAPI, Black community, even when I think about the rural community and supporting people like Rural Ground Game, it makes it easier for us to do our work and connect them with campaigns as opposed to us trying to be the one-stop shop. And so supporting them and making sure that they feel support, not only feel support, but they have not only financial support, but folks are like actually listening to them is where I think is most critical. And that is, it starts with our caucuses and our local committees.
Thank you. Yvette?
Yvette Lewis, Maryland. Virginia is the home to a lot of universities, but you're also the home to HBCUs. You know, you got the MEAC and the CIAA group there. And
I don't know about the MEAC. I'm not familiar with the CIAA.
oh, don't even start. Don't even start. Because you used to be CIAA, and then you became MEAC. And you also have, you're the home to Hampton University, which is in dispute as to whether it's the real HU as opposed to Howard University, but we'll get into that as well. But my question for you is, what are you doing to shore up our HBCUs? Because you know they're targeting our students to keep them from voting. And I want to be sure that protections are in place to make sure, especially in early voting or any place where our students are voting, they are not intimidated in any way or they're kept from voting. And that's personal to me, to make sure that our young people can vote, because we can't say that we want young people in the party, but then we put these obstacles up that keep them from voting. So what are we doing to make sure that we take care of that?
So one of the main things we're doing is showing up at the universities. We had this passed during the referendum. We had Roland Martin did a couple rollouts. He did one at Norfolk State and one at Virginia State. All these questions were online and on Twitter. So thank you for throwing all these extra questions at me. But Roland came in and did outreach, and we did a nice event at Virginia State, and we did a nice event in Norfolk State. And those are some ways that we're actually going out and getting these folks engaged. And then we're getting other influencers to make sure that they're spending time and speaking to them on social media and so forth. But one of the things that I'm really proud of is the fact that also in this last election, it was the first time that Hampton has a polling place on campus. They had been asking for that. And so those are the things that I think are critical, is making sure that we are putting polling places on these campuses, particularly HBCUs, which in Virginia was unheard of. And so not only making sure we're reaching out to them, but also making it easier for them to vote. And I think you can't make it more easier than making it, put it in next door to their cafeteria.
Can I just one quick point about just another benefit of us being on these campuses beyond what the chairman said. One of the things that, again, elections every year, one of the things that happens in Virginia is we also, in all of those elections, build campus programs. So like there is a dedicated program for every statewide campaign in Virginia that we have staff on campuses, Virginia State, Norfolk State, Hampton, real HU, home by the sea, ODU, VCU, like all of these campuses. So the number of staff who come through Virginia and get trained up really well because they spent time on these campuses actually talking to young voters in a real way. Like they don't just stay in Virginia, like they get out, they go other places, and like they're able to do the same thing because, again, we build those programs every single year.
And in these conversations, I hope that black men are really focused on as well, because that's a demographic we have got to focus on. And our young black men, I think with what's happening in the country now, we have a good story to tell.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'd like to make sure that young black men are included in that conversation as well.
I used to be one of those.
I know how about that.
All right, thank you. Keith Umamoto.
Yes, Keith Umamoto from California. I look at our job as three numbers: 51 U.S. Senate, 218 House of Representatives, 270 Electoral College. From the South, we also look at, if we flip North Carolina from red to blue, makes a significant difference. When I go canvassing and I'm with the Spanish-speaking canvasser, we split our list. The Spanish-speaking person goes to the Latino doors, and I go to the Asian doors, and it makes a huge difference on flipping. And when I was in Adam Gray's curing, did the same thing. Now, the nexus to this is with Virginia. Let's assume that you're in a double-digit advantage on the presidential. Is your infrastructure going to be able to, because of doing the early primary, you're going to help us flip North Carolina, as well as ensuring we get those numbers, 50, and we actually need more than 51 if our U.S. senators vote the way they've been doing. We probably need more like 53 to 55 to ensure we achieve our agenda in the U.S. Senate. But similarly, the 218's just a baseline for House, that we really need more than 218. So how is having Virginia going early going to help us to achieve those numbers?
So I first can't believe I'm gonna do this. Usually would have taken this anyway. Not a double-digit presidential state. We aren't. Average in the last four is 6.3. I am happy to take credit as the state director that year for the largest Democratic presidential victory in Virginia. It was 10. Like it was like exactly 10. It was not 10 in 2024. I would love for it to be 10 again, but like that's not the reality of where we are. Like that's why we, in all honesty, that's why we keep talking about us as like a purple state. It is not this guaranteed Democratic victory. Like we could absolutely do things and like it get really, really difficult in Virginia. Republicans spend money in Virginia on presidential races, right? They spend real money there, which means we have to spend real money there, and it's a thing. So, but to your larger question, the point that I would make is this. Again, I broken record, but it's the truth. We do it every single year. We have incredibly sophisticated voters at this point. There is no better place to actually build that muscle of what you have to do. If you want to learn how to talk to suburban voters in any part of the country, go to Chesterfield County. Immediately, go to Chesterfield. You want to You want to learn how to talk to black rural voters? Go to Danville. Go there. Like, it will train you to go and do this anywhere. So if you want to think about Virginia as a place that is not just a great example of like how to go speak to these voters in a real way, it is also, which we should take a ton of credit for, a place that is very easy to teach staff how to have these conversations outside of Virginia. You have every opportunity to bring more. You should want more staff talking to voters in Virginia than not, because those staffers always leave and go other places and do amazing jobs. If you don't believe me, I would implore you to go look at your last statewide campaign and figure out how many of those folks worked a statewide race in Virginia sometime in the 4 years before they came to you. I guarantee you it's like 50%. Because we do it every year. In the years where nobody else has races, we have huge races. Last year's governor's campaign is probably 300 staff. You should want staff from other places to come to Virginia, work, talk to voters in all types of places. And if they do, they will leave Virginia and go to other places and be better at it. They will leave Virginia and go to North Carolina. You can leave Henrico County or Arlington City, and you can go to Charlotte, and you can do an amazing job because of what you learned in those places. And like, that is beyond just talking to voters, which is like a real thing. The way staff is trained and the way you have to work in Virginia is a massive reason you should want Virginia early in this process.
Thank you, and I'm going to thank.
And I want to close with,
I'm going to thank you.
We truly are
closing, right?
a purple state. You know, Trump has skewed the numbers. I mean, Trump has been in the mid-30s in Virginia now for 10 years. So we understand that. And Trump will not be on the ballot in 28. So we're not going to take anything for granted. But the most important thing I want to leave you with, and you've heard it 1,000 times about how we take elections, and I really believe it's your responsibility in the rules and bylaws, you have to build a calendar where the candidates for president are going to be put through the fire. Virginia is a state that when people come in and campaign, it is a very sophisticated electorate. You know, our folks are so upset, the Doge cuts and everything else that's going on in this country, it's hit Virginia harder than any state. Maryland's right behind us. But I promise you, if you put Virginia early in that calendar, they are going to put every presidential candidate through the toughest set of questions. You're going to have to answer military questions, urban questions, rural questions. And if you can't do that, you're not going to be successful. That's what we want as our nominee in 2028, and we have the ability to do that.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you to all of you from Virginia. That concludes our discussion on Virginia, and we really appreciate the time and work that you all put into this presentation.